All right, every series has played game 2 so far, and I'm wanting to basically go in and just talk about some of them. Just rattle off some notes, nothing too big. I did make predictions on my main channel for each series, and yeah, I kind of said at the beginning of them, I was probably going to get more of these series wrong in the first round than I got in the entirety of last year. 2023 just felt much easier to discuss. These series have so many different factors, including injuries, where something can go the other way, and I think you are seeing that at play so far. And yeah, we could just work through some of what I talked about in the prediction, look at some series that are obviously going the other way. For that, I guess we can start with the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Suns. I had Suns in 7. Minnesota, they took care of business at home. They lead 2-0 right now. And what I am so impressed with this Wolves squad at the moment is they have hit almost every note they would need to just totally dominate Phoenix. Doesn't help them, I'm going to assume, so far without an injury update, they'll be missing Grayson Allen going forward. That if you're a team that's already built as funny as the Suns are, you can't really afford to have anybody out. They will be having Grayson Allen probably miss some of, if not the rest of the series. The basketball the Wolves are playing so far, though, man, on both sides. Rudy Gobert is having a hell of a series for what the Timberwolves need from him on both sides of the ball. Coming into it, I thought the Suns would be able to take more advantage of him specifically than they have, and it wasn't as simple as just, oh, run a million pick and rolls, pull Gobert out of the paint. I just thought with the 3 perimeter scorers they had, when they did get those switches, specifically off of a Jaden McDaniels, maybe they would be able to make something work. And so far, even when Gobert does switch, nothing happens. I think in game 1, KD got a few buckets off. A lot of what you see so far is Bradley Beal will come off of a screen, but get Rudy, he'll dribble under the goal and come out the other side. And the Suns are no closer to actually executing on offense, so that's not happening. Jaden McDaniels is locking the fuck up. I believe they said guys are shooting like sub 30% on him so far, and you get game 2 where he scores over 20 points, so you just can't have that if you're Phoenix. And going up against a team as defensively competent as Minnesota, I think one of the things hurting Phoenix at the moment you see is the roster construction. Not having a true point guard. Going through the season, obviously if they were healthy, they were probably going to win even more games. They had enough to go win games and scare teams in regular season matchups. You see the ball pressure that the Wolves have, and you start to think, okay, if Devin Booker is bringing the ball up, well, he's a 2 and his main job is to score. Dealing with Minnesota, not only for them to win would he need to have a way better series scoring wise than he's having right now, he's also got to deal with the pressure of bringing the ball up the floor and initiating the offense. Basically, whether it's him or Beal, they kind of both have to deal with the extra ball handling duties, which I think particularly you're seeing is hurting them a little bit more in the playoffs than it did in the regular season. Unfortunately for the Suns, they don't have a material answer to this issue. The only button they have is they could go out and say, all right, IT, you're up. They did sign him to multiple 10-day contracts and sign him for the rest of the season, so he's on your bench. And the answer to your issues potentially being IT is hilarious. That's not even the case, though. That wouldn't solve their problems, because you put in an Isaiah Thomas, what happens on defense? Seriously, where are you going to hide him? Even if he did settle down the offense a little bit more or provide some relief to those guys, one of the issues already, he just feeds into a problem the Suns already have. You can't just come into a series and say, all right, the lineup is the big 3, Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. Meanwhile, all the size that the Wolves have is just causing so many problems on so many different fronts. Long story short, the Wolves are just hitting too many of their high points, even with Ant not particularly shooting well. This is easy to ignore, especially if you ain't watching the series, because surely you've seen on the highlights he has a couple of heaters every game, especially where it looks like there's a blatant passing of the torch going on. But what's happening though, especially in game 1, is the explosion kind of comes at a certain time, or the explosion came at a certain time, or an important bucket comes at a certain time and starts to put the Suns out of reach. I'm sure as the playoffs go on, he will shoot better. You can't have, and even if you don't have a great field goal percentage, you can't afford to have these hype moments while other guys are also hitting shots and they're defending the way they are. If you just get a repeat of the single performance Minnesota has had so far, they will sweep. And I had the Suns in 7. if if they duplicate it. Obviously, the Suns now get to go home. They have beat this team during the regular season. I've remarked on my main channel before, it doesn't matter if a team goes 10-0 against another squad during the regular season. It does not mean that they should beat them in the playoffs. Of course, you might have a little bit of a mental edge. You might have some scheme things you can go to. The Timberwolves right now, though, the way the scheme is set up, boy, they have the Suns boxed on almost every front. For the Suns to win a game, yet alone a series, you have to have at least two of the big three going at all times, and you have to have a shooter. And Phoenix simply doesn't really have a ton of roster options. You see they're not playing Bol right now. They're not playing some of the guys you might have seen during the regular season. Even if they did, I'm not sure it solves the issues they have so far. Yeah, I'm gonna let the series go back to Phoenix. Right now, the way it goes, the Timberwolves just look structurally better. So I'll tell you this, if Rudy Gobert has the games he's having on both sides of the ball right now, the Suns don't stand a fucking chance. I was always curious to see what Rudy looks like on a good team with other defenders on it. That was the big problem in Utah. Obviously, he was left out to dry a lot more. That's the thing, though. Even if he is left out to dry in this series, I'd love to see the percentage. It's not doing anything for Phoenix as an advantage. And when you have to go band for band with Jaden McDaniels on the perimeter, or even Nah, but you've got to figure them out on the perimeter. And even if you do, you got Gobert down there, or you have his switching ability and he's actually doing okay with that. Yeah, you just got no chance to beat this Minnesota team if they have those things going for them. So Game 3 coming up soon. I will always let it see a team play their home games first. Yeah, but it ain't looking good. It also ain't looking good for the Nuggets and Lakers. If you watch my playoff predictions, you saw I didn't even go into that series. I didn't dive into it because I didn't feel the need. They have lost so many games in a row to them in the exact same fashion. LA has managed leads in both games, most notoriously game 2, 20 points, and you know a series is out of reach when you watch a game and it starts getting into the 15 to 20 range and you go, okay, I'll come back to this when it's close, because you know it's going to be close, and then it happens. That's when you know a series is over. That's why I didn't really spend any time breaking it down, because if you watch the Western Conference Finals, if you watch Denver play them throughout this year, I feel like you kind of knew the Lakers just didn't really have a chance. This is just a much better team. This isn't a time where LeBron and AD are as healthy as can be. It's not like the conference finals last year when Braun was kind of limping towards there. They're both healthy. The team just ain't good enough. Team ain't good enough, and Denver executes too well. You see they're not even shooting good from wide open threes right now, and they're still winning these games. Yeah, this should be a sweep. Maybe LA, because they've had leads so far, maybe they'll be able to build a lead and finish one in LA, or hell, who knows, if it went really sideways, they get both and come back to Denver tied. I don't think the Nuggets are keen on letting the series they are clearly mentally and physically dominating go on much further. Yeah, I don't even have to break down the basketball in this one. It's the same script. If you don't know anything about Nuggets and Lakers, it's been the same script for a year, and I'm convinced they're experimenting with how many different ways they can beat this team. So paint me surprised if LA comes back to Denver tied. Really, even with one, but especially if it's tied, paint me surprised. Oof. Yeah, also paint me surprised if the Magic come back tied. I had Cavs in 7. I thought this was gonna be a much tougher series. The points that I talked about in the predictions have all favored Cleveland so far. One of the remarks I had that's gonna age poorly is I said Orlando had just enough three-point shooting to tip a series like this. I was really looking at a Jalen Suggs. I was looking at some smaller Joe Ingles minutes, and going in a series like this, they technically have enough. They could hit enough to turn the tide, because I thought the defense was going to be doing a lot more. I didn't think the offense was going to be as bogged down as it is. Right now, it is simply coming down to the Magic cannot hit shots. The Magic can't hit shots, and Donovan Mitchell being the fabulous playoff performer he's been for his entire career now. It's so bad, the Magic will be down 10 and they'll start eating away at the lead, and immediately the Cavs will just go let Donovan Mitchell cook and pretty much wrap it all up. So yeah, that's the clear difference between a team that has a solidified star, superstar, whatever you want to call him, versus a team that is young and does have a star player, but it's still growing, right? He ain't there yet. It's his first playoffs. Yeah, the Magic ain't winning games against the Cavs shooting negative from the three-point line. Not only do you miss shots and it's demoralizing, then Cleveland can be disrespectful. just makes you overall easier to guard. Cleveland is already more talented. At this specific point, I will get the pick right, but before the postseason, I was telling y'all, I didn't think the Magic were gonna go far. I didn't think they were really gonna get out of the first round. I just kind of thought they were going to scare a team and give them a really good fight and be really annoying with the defensive juggernaut that they are. And yeah, that's not gonna happen either right now. So we will see what happens in Orlando. Who knows? Once again, we have seen series completely flip when they go home. We will see. It ain't looking good right now. It's also looking scary for the 76ers, and more than just the basketball. So they pretty much sold the end of last game. You can talk about the refs, talk about whatever you want to talk about. They are down 2-0. They pretty much had game 2 in the bag. I thought they did a lot of what they would want to do. You see Jalen Brunson is not having the regular season Jalen Brunson shooting series so far. We'll talk about that later in later series. For right now, I'm really more concerned with Joel Embiid. It's a lot of weird shit going on. First of all, he almost ended his series by going off glass with that dunk. Coming into this series, I didn't even know if he was going to be ready. They got him back out on the floor before the regular season. They got him into this series. Just a lot of weird stuff going on, and I'm kind of worried about his future. At this point, I'm just hoping it ends with him still walking, that this series ends with him still walking under his own power. He is clearly laboring a lot to be out there. And to the basketball, New York is hitting enough shots outside of Jalen Brunson not shooting well to kind of offset it. So I'm not done with this one yet. Philly was in both of those games. Like I said, probably should be tied right now. They are in Philly. They have the formula in place to win a game, to win games. So keep an eye, might come back from Philly tied here. All I really had to say about this one is I am nervous for Joel Embiid. Pacers Bucks is also tied. Giannis has not made an appearance yet. We spoke a pretty good amount about what a calf strain does to you right before the postseason. It's just not even good. Right now we still don't have a return timetable. It didn't sound what I read last. Didn't sound like he was close. And guess what? It hasn't 100% mattered because Damian Lillard decided he's good again. He was having good games without Giannis during the regular season. Of course, if we were just looking at the entire sample of 2024, though, we're going, okay, if you bring the Dame we have seen into this playoff series without Giannis Antetokounmpo against a Pacers team who offensively has been very competent, it doesn't bode well for your chances. Well, all right, at least half of that is accounted for. Dame has scored 30 in both of these. The second half of game 1 was dry. The lead was so big it didn't matter. They ended up losing game 2. This is still very much a dogfight. It appears so far halfway through, Dame did in fact have the gear still. He did still have the Portland gear. I'm happy for that, just in case they actually do go on a run here and get Giannis back and go to the conference finals. I just feel the Bucks, the healthy Bucks, are still probably the most compelling team if Boston actually gets the job done to go against in the conference finals. As you see, Milwaukee can definitely still win this without Giannis. Indiana is still a team that, although they improved through the season on defense, it is still not a great defensive squad. If Halliburton isn't as aggressive through certain stretches, plays in the Bucks' favor, and with Dame having the amount of playoff experience he does, I think that is shown so far. Whether they get Giannis back or not, this one is, I do believe it will be reaching into the 6 or 7 territory. And if Giannis does come back and he is actually able to really contribute, even if it was 70-80%, I would probably then lean Milwaukee. Off a calf strain though, we just don't know. This is one of those series you just have to watch from game to game. Apparently, like the Celtics and Heat, which leave Boston tied. In my prediction, I did say if Miami won a game because Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero were shooting 200% from 3, fine, I will concede and say the Celtics win in 5. The Heat did in fact have their Black Magic game in game 2, making 23, 24 threes. Everybody was hitting at all times. I'm not even sure there was a ton on that side of the ball Boston could have done to affect the outcome. Now the real test starts, because if they struggle here, I promise you, I know every championship team has struggles. I lived through the 08 run. I watched the old squad go 7 with the Atlanta Hawks and still win, and I tell everyone the difference is that team had an MVP on it, a defensive player of the year. They had 3 superstars who were right before they were about to go downhill in 2008. I think they had a lot more margin for error than a team who is still trying to prove themselves. Even with all the talent they have, they're still trying to prove themselves. And so the 08 Celtics squad going toe-to-toe with teams they should sweep was one thing. I felt they had the talent to just kind of make up for it and still win. This squad, who are notorious for playoff folds, do not have it to go 6 with the Heat, and to end up going 7 with the Cavs when they shouldn't, and then playing whoever out of the other side of the bracket to then run up against the Denver Nuggets and beat them. That will not happen. So if I see Boston lose another game to the Heat, and especially if it's the next one, oh, I am going to I'm gonna feel some things. I'm gonna have to be truthful. I wasn't truthful with myself last season when they almost went 7 with the Hawks. I was in attendance for game 6 in ATL. It was 1 quarter away from going 7. I ignored the signs. I said, you know what? Hawks played good basketball. It is what it is. Let's just keep pushing forward. I would not be tricked this year. Challenges against lower tier teams is a red flag. In 90+% of situations, it is a red flag. Clippers Mavs is tied 1-1 after the awful showing Dallas had in game 1. I really didn't judge them too bad off of this game because they were so bad in that first half. I just went, look, they came out, they got hit in the mouth. They were totally unprepared. Let's watch game 2, and lo and behold, it was a closer game. Kawhi came back, which I was very nervous about him having to miss game 1 on top of all the time he'd already missed. I was extremely nervous, still nervous for him in terms of a prolonged run, but right now what we have is what we have. This will still be a long series. I believe my official pick without Kawhi, because we just didn't have the info, I said if Kawhi didn't play the whole series, I would have had Dallas in 6. With Kawhi playing, I believe this is, and it depends on obviously his performance and him actually being stable throughout the series. Him being there makes it a longer series though. Him being there in general will make it a longer series in my opinion. And it's gonna be fun. We've already got a Luka moment. Then there's the Pels and Thunder. The Thunder survived game 1 and game 2 wasn't as close. Without Zion Williamson, it just really puts a dapper on the whole series. I think that could have made it a really fun 8-1 matchup. Maybe the Pels will fight back at home and make it a little interesting. I didn't have any aspirations for this to be a great or a close series without him. And yeah, this is what we've got so far. 3 tied series. Everyone will be looking at Boston for a downfall and for a mental collapse. Bucks Pacers is ultra important in my opinion. And then yeah, Clippers Mavs, you love to see it. I hope the Clippers do hit a stride and look better than they did to wrap up the season. That's all I got. Let me know what you think about these series so far. Who do you think is going to win? Have you changed any predictions? Leave it all there after you hit the like button and sub, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you on the next one.